Good morning, everyone.
Hi there.
We have muted everyone's line, so we don't have background noise, so everybody can hear today. So Janice, would you please do roll call?
President Davidson,
Here.
Vice President Massame,
Rick Baisden here.
Secretary Kincaid, present. Treasurer Hahn,
Present.
Director Hector, absent. Director McGraw,
Present.
Director Ricketts,
She was here.
Director Ricketts,
Here.
and Director Setzer.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Then I will call the meeting to order. It is at 9:32, and we all rise for pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get on with the agenda, I would like a motion to add an additional item to the agenda, which is 2 additional prom fertilization discussion and approval. Can I have a motion?
motion.
Thank you, Ryan. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And we will add the additional pond fertilizations to the agenda as new business. Therefore, I would like a motion to approve the February 5th board meeting minutes.
So made.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And I will turn the meeting for reports over to Keith to do your report.
Good morning.
Morning.
This is the first service report from the Board of Directors for March 5th. Again, just a brief note that all directors presently sitting on the board are current owners of the dwellings and the districts they reside in. And this is based on information from February 28th. Again, this is the last month of the current fiscal year for the association, so we'll be wrapping that up and working on the year-end financials and the tax returns for this year. And just a brief note, we do have a new team member on our staff. She's in the room. I think several people met her already. Arceli. We want to welcome her to the team. She's going to kind of be our office assistant, just kind of helping out and being kind of a hybrid position, cross-training in several areas. So we're really glad to have her and welcome her to the team. Another quick announcement too, we have a new mailbox, thanks to the team at Vesta for ordering that up and getting that installed. There are new signs coming, so we're gonna have some signage on that, a couple of lecture instructions so people will understand the proper use of that, and that it is for maintenance fees and forms and stuff like that. So that is, we'll have that next week hopefully, and those installed quickly. Administration wise for first service for the month of February, we did 74 transfers, so we did see a big uptick in transfers of units. We had 33 leases, which is about average right now. And we did almost 400 pest control appointments, so that is still low on average for the month, so that is still working well. We had about 1,000 walk-ins, so we were down about 500 walk-in visits from January. And we did about 94 alteration form requests and 32 violation letters and 15 new contracts for the association. So people are still painting, doing roofs and working out there association-wise. Again, annual meetings are all wrapped up, and we do want to just give a shout out to Webb Milton, the Federation attorney that held the 2 in-person board certification class. I think they went really well. He's very energetic, and when he does it in person, he does try to tweak it a little bit for Kings Point information, so it was nice. And he also was gracious enough to have a virtual class for those that couldn't fill in or couldn't get into the class or weren't comfortable attending in person. So I think the virtual class was well. It's not the same as being in person, but glad he offered that as well. Good budgets again for the board. all the books are done, all the coupon books are gonna be ordered up and sent out basically, next week, so everybody should be getting them pretty soon, and they'll be taking effect for the new fiscal year, April 1, so all the associations will be getting those. I wanna kind of briefly jump over insurance, because I know we have a couple of guests today that are gonna be talking about insurance and the plan. Community Promotions Committee is working diligently with the new website designer, so they'll be kicking that off and working to get the new website up and running over the next several months. And I'm gonna leave it for landscaping. We do have the new 2-year contracts to be approved by the board today, so they'll be reviewing that and approving that if necessary. Work orders for the month, there were only 9 for February. Average days complete were 4.4. Again, that's just down from, just increased communication activity from Ryan Works standpoint, just working better with the vendors and making sure they're cleaning themselves better. Again, if anybody has any issues, obviously let the POCs know to put those work orders in, we'll get those items addressed. And that's all I have for today. Any questions?
One question I have for you is how is Down to Earth Section 2 doing on their gigs which caused them to fail?
I know they've cleaned up most of the crepe myrtles and several of the carryover items, so they're in pretty good shape and should be recovering the penalty that they incurred. I know they have until technically Tuesday, so I think they're working well on that and it'll be fine. So.
Will Ryan sign off on those?
Ryan or myself, yeah, we'll be able to make sure that.
So as long as they clear those up, the penalty will not apply.
Right.
Just one thought, just to expand the bill, you talked about the new coupon books coming out. You talked about that real quickly. That's if people pay by check each month.
Right.
But the option, talk about the option again to have it automatically cut your accounts, it's the same thing and you gotta pay it.
Yeah.
And if you signed up for automatic, it's so easy and you won't get a book, you'll just resume model, talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
so obviously there's different ways to pay everybody's maintenance fee each month. We do have what's called Click Pay, which is an ACH form, and that just gets automatically taken out of the owner's bank account if they are signed up on that. And that's what we really encourage, because it's the most seamless process, and there won't be any missed payments or mail delays, so usually avoids any late fees with that. So that just gets sucked out of their bank account with the authorization from them, and they'll only get a letter in the middle of March stating that their fee went up, adjusted according to their association's budget. But if they're like to pay by check, they'll get an actual coupon book with the 12 coupons in it for next year, and they'll be able to fill those out and mail those in, or drop them off in the drop box, or I'll bring them to the lobby. So.
You might want to, also, I have my units on whatever that's called. A couple of days beforehand, you get a notice. So they're telling you it's time to deduct.
Right.
They'll be deducting it from your account.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually just set up on a, the third kind of day of the month, where they take the appropriate amount out, so it's pretty seamless, so.
Or you can have it notify you and do it each month separately.
Right. Anything else? Thank you.
She's coming up.
I was waiting for the nod.
Ginger, you're up. I wanted to wait till she got here before I hollered.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We'll get right to it. All right. Clubhouse usage for February was over 22,200 visits, averaging just shy of 800 visits per day. Interesting that the South Club and the main club were neck and neck, just shy of 40% of the total each. In fitness usage for February, we had over 5,200 visits, which is a 2% increase over the prior month, so you all get out there and start working out a little bit more. In spa and salon usage, we had 17,200 in merchandise and sales, 11% drop over the prior month. Food and beverage and dining, we had just shy of $60,000 for sales for February, a 2.7% increase over the prior month. But interestingly enough, the pool deck sales increased 750%. Sunshine, springtime, nice weather, and folks would like a drink at the pool, so that service was very well received. News for the South Club, the team is excited to introduce that the Palm Court will be reopening for inside dining on March 12th. I think the team has a special menu and some live entertainment planned for St. Patty's Day week. Trivia will be returning every Wednesday and Saturday starting April 7th, and karaoke will return to Thursdays starting April 8th. These activities are capped at 50 participants, and social distancing with safety protocols in place will be required. The hours of operation are posted. I believe Matt's e-blasted them out, and you can find them in a pointer and online. Note, Mondays, food and beverage will remain closed, and the full breakfast menu has not returned yet until we see the demand increase for that. On the 2020-21 projects, Victoria and her team are just about done with their list. The main clubhouse and South Club surveillance camera enhancement projects have begun, and installations are in process. The main clubhouse theater sound system project is in process. The bids are being reviewed. And this darn moisture intrusion testing, it just seems not to go away. The main clubhouse, South Club, and 2020 Center have been completed. We've got the report. I believe she's reviewed it, and a mechanical engineer has been contacted to walk the project and provide a plan of action based on the report and give us some figures, bid figures. Victoria's also reached out to the architect to get feedback on the deterioration of the moisture barrier on the foundation in this building. So more to come on that. We just don't know what we don't know yet. The South Club locker room renovation project is 95% complete. Yay! The county's performed their first inspection. It passed, and they've replaced everything in there. It's been completely gutted: exhaust systems, countertops, tile, glass doors. All of it's just brand new. It looks so fresh and clean, and we're just so excited for the residents to get it back in and enjoy that amenity. On the South Club Fitness Center HVAC replacement, that I believe we're just waiting for a start date from that vendor. Gate security operations for February, we had over 13,400 passes issued with 25 incident reports. Just two notables: a resident came to the front gate and he was holding the golf cart gate scanner mechanism in his hand. Somehow that was removed and placed on top of the intercom, and no damage was done to the box, but the wires inside the electrical pole need to be repaired and allow the scanner to be reconnected. Something fishy going on there, not sure what. A Meals on Wheels driver informed the gate that the meal he had delivered the night before was still sitting on the doorstep, and dispatched an officer and found out that resident had been taken to the hospital. Finally, I typically offer the end-of-year data in the April board session after the fiscal year, and we get the complete year. But this year I wanted to do something just a little bit different for the board. It's hard to believe that a year ago, on March 13th, we made that fated call to the entire Fed board and made the recommendation to close the facility. It was the hardest and the easiest decision of our lives. The hardest due to the interruption and enjoyment of the Kings Point residents in their pursuit of their lifestyles and amenities. But easiest because we felt such a strong mission to do our part to keep the community as safe as possible. We had no idea of what was coming, but we knew it was going to be real bad if we hadn't handled it appropriately. So in that 1 year COVID time period, in the look back, we were able to keep most staff members employed and are very proud of the team who was able to pivot and do other things in their usual job functions, but tasks that were necessary nonetheless to keep the facilities clean and maintained and secure. We had 36 Kings Point employees quarantined over the past year. 2 were exposures to another employee, only 2. That is a positive testament to the strict adherence for safety protocols, social distancing, and wearing masks and sanitizing. In the clubhouses, we hosted over 167,800 visits in 8 months, or 750 per day. At the South Club, we served over 10,300 orders in the Portico Pickup Program, a completely new program design that had never existed before. We then evolved to the current effort to develop safer, faster methods to order food through an online ordering portal, which also was a new service. The South Club team was instrumental in developing the ID badge check for contact tracing across the entire Kings Point property, which we've utilized numerous times. In community assistance, with the help of this community, we fed over 600 healthcare workers from local hospitals, assisted living, skilled nursing, home health, fire department, and the emergency squad. We partnered early on and coordinated the distribution of thousands of masks to those in need. Matthew and his team filled 2 buses full of non-perishable items for local food banks, and we raised over $2,500 for local charities for through our outdoor concert series. 175 e-blasts were sent to 1,600 people that were opened and read 400,000 times. And of course, hosted the vaccine program that inoculated 4,200 seniors. In the meantime, the maintenance of the facilities just went on. 500,000 gallons of water. We resurfaced the South Club outdoor pool shell, re-marcited Nantucket Pool. The North Club outdoor pool deck resurfaced, the locker room renovations, the kitchen floor replacement, repave the parking lots, replacement of the bar and HVAC system, bocce ball, tennis ball refurbishment, and the tennis gazebo. Approximately 1,100 patrons were served in the spa with over 6,200 services, 114 fitness videos produced and viewed 7,800 times. Gate security issued 132,000 passes, fielded 108,000 calls, and responded to 375 incident reports. And finally, our team of drivers drove 25,000 miles, carrying 17,000 residents to essential locations for folks who have no other way to get where they needed to go. The moral of the story is this: while these figures pale in comparison to prior years, and it doesn't appear to be a heavily or activity-laden amenity, it was in fact an extraordinary year. It was stressful, yes, for all of us residents and staff combined. We are thankful to the Federation and to the community for allowing Vesta to freely and without any unnecessary constraints do our part for all the residents who needed us in some form or fashion. We appreciate the patience of our residents, and we also truly understand the impatience of the residents. We do feel that the residents appreciated what we had to do, and it meant the world to us to be able to help. So now we have looked back, we've licked our wounds, and now we pick ourselves up, we brush it off, and we're looking forward to creating the new normal in Kings Point. Slowly and methodically, our team is digging its way out of COVID just as methodically as we had to hunker down. So stay tuned, Kings Point. More things are coming your way. Great things are coming your way. I'd like to turn it over now to Matthew to give a summary report on the COVID vaccine operation Roll Up Your Sleeve.
Matthew, before you start, Ginger, I have a question for you. Because it reads Vesta Management Report, could we change that in the future to Land Trust Report presented by Vesta Management? Because this is truly everything to do with the land trust. And I think it would probably help the residents in the future to understand that what you're reporting on is the land trust.
Sure.
And therefore, let's call it the Land Trust Report,
Okay.
presented by the management company of Vesta.
No problem.
It's just something, I was sitting here going, all these figures you're giving us truly relate to the land trust. And it just might make for better clarity.
Sure.
Thank you for the correct word.
You're up, Matt. Okay. Good morning, everyone. On February 26th, we completed round 2 of the vaccination program for the Kings Point community, and I would like to share some interesting bits of information with you. During round 1 of the vaccines, 4,294 vaccines were administered. During round 2, 4,250 individuals returned for their second vaccine, which is a follow-up percentage of approximately 99%. The reason for the no-shows will range from anywhere from the resident was in the hospital or that they simply forgot, but 99% is a fantastic number, and I know the state was extremely pleased with that. Approximately 3,250 Kings Point residents received vaccines from this program. Moving forward, we are slowly getting word that the state will be less and less involved in the locations, and coordination will be taking place at the local county level. We are once again partnering with Mike Bardell and the emergency squad to try and secure vaccines for the residents in our community that are 55 plus. Stay tuned for more information regarding those announcements when we have information to share. Now, a warning in advance, you all are about to hear a lot of thank yous. As has been stated before, it takes a village to pull something off like this. I would personally like to thank our community leadership, including the folks in this room with our Federation Board. I would also like to thank the Master Board, the management companies of First Service Residential and Vesta, generous donations from the COA, local agencies provided volunteers such as the Emergency Squad and CERT with the guidance from Mike Bardell and Bob Preston, and the Army of Volunteers for the Hospitality Suite led by Kat Drinker, who all worked together to make a very seamless and successful event. Thank you to our residents who cooperated and were patient during our traffic challenges, including the multiple days where the vaccine did not arrive on property until after 8 a.m. Thank you to the makers of Fireball Whiskey for helping me through some of those nights. Thank you to all of those who graciously donated to our hospitality suite. Everyone came together for the greater good, and we all feel that indeed this was a rare opportunity that comes along once in a lifetime where you can make a real difference and help so many people. For those of us at Vesta, it was a privilege and an honor to serve the Kings Point community in this capacity. We continue to this day to receive feedback from the county and state levels that Kings Point set the bar and the standard which all other locations will be judged. And finally, for the internal Vesta team, I can't thank you enough. Thank you for putting up with me over the course of the past few months. Thank you to Ginger Anzalone for talking me off the ledge numerous times, and Denny Leahy, who is behind the camera back there, incredibly talented woman, and honestly I couldn't have done it without her as well. So again, thank you to all of you, and I'm just glad this round is over and on to the next. So that's it.
Matt, don't leave. You can stand up though. The Federation Board, on behalf of all the residents of Kings Point, would like to present you with this award, and it reads, "With our greatest appreciation, we hereby present Matt Vermouth for your unwavering support and unrelenting guidance, which helped in leading our path to success with COVID-19 vaccination program, and you are being honored with much appreciation and gratitude, presented by the residents of Kings Point, February 2021. It is one thing we have kept secret from you. You want to know why? Don't leave yet. You wanted to know why we wanted you here and to do that presentation. That is the reason. We wanted to make sure you were here. You can blame your boss. She knew about it.
She'll hear about it later.
He blames me for everything anyway.
I only hope, as you have told me, Ginger has relegated your office to a utility closet. I hope that you can find space to display that and feel very honored that the residents of Kings Point feel so grateful to you for all the time, all the work, and all the effort that you
I
put in.
appreciate it. That means a lot. Thank you very much.
And don't leave because I'll give you the box.
Okay.
Keep breaks things.
I
You might
do.
want to be careful with that.
I'll put it back.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
You want me to put it back?
I got it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And Matt, were you surprised? Matt?
You know, I sometimes put two and two together. As the general manager before for 6 years, I never had to give a presentation up in one of these meetings, so I figured something was up, but I didn't know exactly what.
It is very well deserved.
I appreciate it.
Much
Means a lot.
appreciation and gratitude from the community.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. We will therefore go on to the committee reports. I know, Dave, you have two presentations that you have to give later. Do you have any other thing on the committee report?
I think that'll be enough for today.
Okay. Noreen, anything on committee report?
Nope, Gus is doing a good job.
Ryan?
The Federation spots are filled except for District 2. They'll be receiving their letters and the information so they can find a volunteer nomination for that particular slot. Everybody else is in place currently. They'll take their seat at the table at the just after the annual meeting. And we are also going to be doing our interviews with people that have submitted their name as volunteers for the RFPC on March 25th.
Alan, do you have anything?
Nothing at this time.
Rick?
And I just want to tell Ryan that I've got another house in District 2. I'm gonna move over there and change my name, Ryan. Will that work?
Unfortunately, no.
I'd just like to thank Keith. Being in charge of the Community Promotions Committee, I'm kind of a leader, but there's been so many areas that require expertise in a particular area, and working on the website, that was not my expertise, but Keith stepped in a number of times, took over and got this thing rolling, and from the committee, I'd like to thank you, Keith. That's all.
Janice?
Yeah, I know the insurance, USI guys are here, and they're gonna be speaking in a little bit, but I just wanted to give you a reminder that in the next few weeks, this is gonna be the busy time for the insurance agents and for the insurance committee. I'm using your report here, Keith. And also keep in mind that on March 19th, there's gonna be a special board meeting so that we can approve the insurance, and then a special membership meeting on April 9th, also to approve the 2021-22 insurance policy renewal. So please mark your calendars for those dates.
And just so everyone knows, the renewal is April 15th, so again, we had to do a couple special different meetings because of the renewal timeline. So we didn't wait to the end of the April meeting.
Okay.
And I will do the president's report. Before I start my president report, today is the last real official board meeting for Rick and Dave. I personally want to thank you both for all the work you have done in your service to the board. I know it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort, and I personally appreciate the effort that both of you have put in. You may not be serving on the board, but if I have anything to do with it next year, you're both going to be and continue to be involved in a lot of the activities which you have been working on over the last 2 years. So thank you very much for your dedication, your effort, and your time. It is greatly appreciated, not only by this board, but I'm sure the entire community.
It's been a pleasure working with the Federation Board and the community, so I've enjoyed the last 2 years, 5 months, so that's good.
Rick, you want to say anything?
I'm at a loss for words.
God.
Something just froze over.
Except that I would like to leave a parting word that I think we ought to get rid of that part of the bylaws that will keep a person off the board for some ridiculous reason. Counting one day as 2 years is just unbelievable.
I will tell you that I, after discussing it with a couple of the other executive committee members, have already contacted Federation Council to write up a new section of those bylaws regarding term of office. He has advised me that as a 618 corporation, there is no specific term of office. Under 718, which we are not, that the term of office can run up to 8 years. And under 720, there is no requirement for term of office. So he is putting together a manner, and we will be taking that to the membership for approval as quickly as we can get it done.
So are you telling me that when they changed the bylaws in 2014, there was no reason to change?
According to Webb Melton, 617 Corporation, which is what we are, has no term of office requirement in it. So we're gonna get that changed, Rick, and I'm glad you brought it up. And it should be changed to not have someone serve for 2 years and 5 months and not being able to serve on the board. And in your case, someone serving for such a short period of time and only being able to serve 2 years in that small partial period. As our attorney advised us when he wrote back regarding the question, he felt that our bylaws needed to be amended, that it is not normal practice for those types of restrictions to be placed, and that's why when he gave us the initial response on you and Dave's running for office, he gave us a generalized answer to a generalized question. So for the embarrassment that it may have caused you, or the heartache that it may have caused both you and Dave, for willing to work on the board again and run, I apologize that
That's
you
not
both got
necessary.
that. And believe me, if I have anything to do with it, you're gonna be still involved in the board.
Well, I assume by the conversation that the present board members agree to that. And based on our meeting of meet the new candidates, I assume based on what they said, they agreed to
They
change it
agree
as
with
well.
it, so there was 4 candidates sitting up there, the 2 executive board members outside of yourself that I spoke to also agree with it. So I would say the majority of the board is fully in favor of doing an amendment to the bylaws to make it more fair and equitable going forward in the future. But Rick, I can't say enough. Rick has a very poignant expression to me all the time. We may agree 75% of the time, but we don't agree 25% of the time. But we work through those 25% and continue on with a very good relationship. And Rick, I will miss your feistiness on the areas where we don't agree, and I appreciate you calling me out numerous times and giving me advice. I have appreciated your assistance and guidance as a vice president. I really sincerely mean that. To continue on, the reason I asked Ginger if she would change this to the land trust report is most of us read Nextdoor. And there are many comments on Nextdoor at times that Vest is doing one thing or another so they can make more money. Everything that Vesta reports on for the land trust regarding how much money we have made at the spa, how much money and how many orders we are getting through the South Club, or we are getting through the Perk when it is open, all the money that we get from the bar, or any other activities that are sponsored by the land trust, that is land trust money. Vesta does not make one dime off of the facilities. They are paid for serving the community and overseeing and managing the land trust. So I just wanted to clear up anything within the community that when Ginger gives her reports and says, by the way, The total sales for February, food and beverage, was $52,000. The land trust pays for the cost involved, but it also reaps that revenue involved. And it is something this community needs to understand, that the monies that are made over the amenities and the different facilities go directly into the land trust and reduce the overall operating budget on a yearly basis to the land trust. And that's why I asked you to change it, Ginger. It might help for future understanding that those truly are land trust dollars, not vested dollars. In addition, hopefully all of you have received the newsletter that was mass sent out. If you did not receive a copy of the newsletter, and if you want one, if you would email Ma Bell, I'm quite sure that Ma Bell can get a copy of the newsletter out to you. It has some very interesting things. One of the things in there is an article which Janice asked to have written on the RFEC and what the RFEC does, because RFEC really is who comes to the board with the different plans. Everybody thinks it is Vesta that does this. It is the RFEC who is responsible for the projects and plans. Vesta managed them for the land trust, and she does, and Vesta does an exceptional job, but it's truly the RFEC who does a lot of the work in reviewing the budgets, reviewing the projects. Understand that there are 5 different sections within the RFEC. We need residents involved in the RFEC to continue the great work in keeping this community up to standards and keeping the facilities in the manner in which we have grown accustomed to them being. So if you do have not received the newsletter or you didn't read it, please read the article on the RFEC. It'll give you a lot greater understanding. Matt kind of stole my thunder, which I do not mind him stealing my thunder. The Federation Board basically had little involvement in the planning of the things. We were involved in assisting Vesta and Matt in getting them here and working with Vesta as to how the process would work. We didn't have a great deal, but there were, as Matt mentioned, a lot of individuals. I personally, as president, and the Federation Board personally, would like to thank Mike Bardell for all of his work in it, his public service announcements that he has put out through Vesta, through First Service, through the Master. They're very much appreciated to the community, and to CAT for actually operating the hospitality suite. I will tell you that it, and Matt can probably validate this much more than I, it was greatly appreciated by every single volunteer, every single nurse, every single National Guardsman. There aren't many communities that basically do this. And one of the things is that I've heard a lot of nurses say, and a lot of volunteers that were from outside this community say, they felt the love from the folks within Kings Point, which you folks should be very proud of, that you have volunteers coming in this community doing their job, and they felt the love out of this community and the appreciation out of this community very greatly. And Matt, a lot of that goes to you for the way you organized it, the way it was put together by you and Ginger and the other people involved, and all the volunteers who stepped up to the plate. So thank you very much again. There is one issue that I did want to mention, is the Federation over the last few months has received a number of unsigned letters, whether they be complaints or anything. Any letters which the Federation receives that are unsigned will be placed into file, and no answer will be made to them, and don't expect us to be discussing them. If an individual does not have the decency to sign a letter with an issue they have, then the Federation Board is not going to take its time to spend any time and any effort on those letters. There is no reason why that if someone has an issue and they want to take the time to write something to the Federation, that they don't have the time to sign their name to it. No one has ever been condemned for sending out a letter to the Federation Board. Every letter we have gotten has been responded to. They are in file. Many of those are personally called to resolve their issues. So if you want to send a letter to the Federation Board and you don't want to sign it, that is your right to do so, but don't expect the Federation to pay any attention to it, because if you don't have the time to sign it, then we don't have the time to review it and worry about what you're saying in it. Those are basically my comments. I appreciate having served on this board for the last 2 years. I don't know what the end of March will bring, but we will see what the end of March will bring. Hopefully, we can continue on with the success we've had under this board. This board has done a lot of work, and it isn't one individual on this board. It is all 9 members on this board that have put out the effort, and it is very much appreciated by me as president, for the entire board and everything they have done. The work is scattered around a great deal. The 2 new board members are going to find their time and effort being utilized in a great deal, and we look forward to the 2 new board members, and then the board deciding how they want to handle section 2, which is Rick's area. Section, what? Three new board members, I'm sorry.
And this is Noreen's last.
That's right, Noreen's leaving us, and Noreen, I'm sorry, I just skipped over you.
It's okay.
Noreen, I appreciate you have brought to this board, and I think you have, and I don't mean this in a derogatory manner, you have learned a lot by serving on the board. A lot of the questions you have had in front of the community in the past, I think you have had answered. It has been educational to you, but the board has appreciated your upfront, your honesty, your willingness to work with us and find solutions to problems that you've had. So I did not mean in any way, shape, or form, you, through your own choice, decided not to run again. Where basically Dave and Rick were basically prohibited from running again. But Noreen, I do appreciate you very greatly in all you've done. I've become a friend of yours. We have our arguments, as all the board members do with each other. They have never impacted our relationship or our friendship, and I greatly appreciate that, and I appreciate the work that you have done for the Federation Board and keeping the Federation Board on track and finding out some questions which needed to have answers to them. So thank you very much, Noreen. I really appreciate it. With that, I will open the phone up. If you, hopefully it will work, Ginger. If you will *6 your phone, we will be more than glad to open it up for open forum. Or either that, or I could have Ginger unmute all of the phones. Did you hear me, Ginger?
I do.
I do not want anyone not to have an opportunity to speak, so. How many people do we have on the line?
31.
Pardon?
31.
31. Does anyone have any comments regarding open forum? Their lines are unmuted.
He can't unmute people.
What?
He can't unmute them, they have to unmute themselves.
So they would have to
Yeah.
star six
Star
their
six.
line. If star six is not working, if you will just hang up and call back in with a specific question, we'll take it. Any questions, any comments? Hearing none, we will go on to old business. The reason we considered old business is we have discussed the insurance policy, what we are expecting from the insurance policy as far as when we were doing the budget, where we expected it to go. And Adam, although you and I and Janice have spent a great deal of time talking on the phone, I look forward to hearing your presentation. I know you don't have finalized numbers because you're still working on it, so I do appreciate it, and I will turn the meeting over to you, Adam.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for having me. My name is Adam Lopatno. I work for USI Insurance Services. We are your insurance professional. Before I get started, I just was very moved by the great work you have done in regards to vaccinating the community. I mean, Matt made amazing, 99.9%. I mean, I think the best, it's better than Israel, so you know it's pretty good. So I almost brought tears to my eyes. So it's nice because we do have the most vulnerable people here living here, and those are the people that we have to vaccinate first to make sure they're protected. So really amazing job to everybody. So that's great. So going on to everybody's favorite topic, insurance. One of the largest things that the Federation bulk purchases for the community is insurance. We have been working on this process throughout the year, but most of your insurance renews, all of it renews on April 15th, 2021. We started the bid process about 120 days in advance or even before. Jack and Janice and the insurance committee have been involved in the process. I keep them updated all the time. We've had quarterly meetings throughout the year. And then Jack and I have been involved, and Janice and I have been in calls constantly in regards to claims and in the marketing process. First, I'd like to talk about the insurance marketplace in general. So we are your insurance broker, we're not the insurance carrier. So our job, one of our jobs is to bid your account out to all the markets in the marketplace, obtain those bids, negotiate those bids in a bulk basis, and create internal competition to make sure the community has the broadest coverages at the lowest price premiums with financially sound companies. The marketplace we are dealing with now is what we call a hard market. We started seeing a little bit of that transition last year, and it's really come full circle this year. I did do a handout which kind of explains why a hard market is occurring, and it's called Times Are Changing. I think that's a Bob Dylan song, but for those of you Bob Dylan fans. But what is happening is that due to all the catastrophic events throughout the world and locally in the United States, property carriers are not profitable right now. Their balance sheets are not good, and they're going to have to raising premiums on average on good accounts, 20 to 30% of accounts with no losses on the property side. On accounts with losses, we're seeing rates increase even more than that. And it's just not a hard market when it comes to property insurance. And the reason why we focus on property insurance so much is because property insurance makes up about 86% of our overall spend. So if you look at right now, this year, we're budgeting a $4 million overall spend for the entire community. The property insurance makes up about 86% of that, and we're looking to place about $816 million worth of property insurance. So that's a huge placement. But all the other lines of coverage of insurance are increasing as well, except for workers' comp. So general liability rates are going up, umbrella rates are going up, directors and officers insurance is going up, fidelity. So just not like we saw, I've been doing this for 25 years, we see certain pockets of hard markets, like after 04 and 05, we saw hard market with property insurance. In 1993, after Andrew, we saw property hard marketplace. But what makes this marketplace a little bit different is that all lines of coverage are increasing, and that's not increasing in premium, but we're seeing shrinkage in capacity. Umbrella carriers aren't offering $100 million, now they're offering $50 million. Or general liability carriers are pulling out of the state, they don't want to write general liability carriers, or their exclusions of the policies, or their deductibles, or adding deductibles. So again, it's a very difficult environment out there right now, but we do have, and we did budget for this. So last year when we were discussing budgeting, we did budget for an increase, and based on everything we had anticipated, we're going to be on almost close to budget with one hiccup, and I'll kind of go through that right now. So if you look at our property insurance, we're actually below budget with the only change in coverage with our property insurance right now is that we're increasing our deductible from $2,500 to $5,000, which is the same as we had under the previous AMCAP prior to moving to Heritage. So right now, our best negotiated program is through Heritage, which is an admitted company in the state of Florida, protected by the Florida Insurance Guarantee Act. It includes sinkhole coverage, it includes backup sewers and drains, includes boiler machinery, mold, wind-driven rain. So all the bells and whistles we had previously, no change in coverage, except they're increasing the all perils deductible from $2,500 to $5,000. So that's good news. One of the issues which our account, when we look to bulk purchase or any individual purchase, even where we are, sinkhole is a big deal right now. Nobody, especially in Hillsborough County, a lot of people do not want to write sinkhole coverage. And it's not because of the sinkhole claims per se, it's because of the public adjusters that are suing for things not other than sinkhole, like foundations or settlement and stuff like that. So a lot of these erroneous sinkhole claims are causing them not to offer sinkhole coverage anymore. But Heritage did step up and continue to include sinkhole coverage too. Again, we've been having conversations with Heritage for about 4 weeks on your account, so this is not something that, I don't want to pull the curtains back and tell you all the negotiations we had, but it's been a long process, but I am pleased with where we are right now. Again, we're under budget on the property insurance with really no change in coverage at all, except for the increase in that one small deductible. General liability coverage. Again, general liability coverage covers bodily injury and property damage. That's slip and falls or subrogation claims. There's only 4 good companies that are writing general liability coverage in Florida for condos right now. Aspen, Auto Owners, Philadelphia, and Westfield. Aspen is our incumbent carrier. They have a very robust program. It doesn't have any exclusions for cross suits, firearms, or any of the weird exclusions we're seeing. Their renewal premium so far came in relatively close to budget, which was great. So that's great. And we do have claims. So again, we do have liability claims as well. But overall, it's been a profitable account to them. So they've given us a renewal that is an increase, but an increase lower than we're seeing in the rest of the marketplace. The crime policies should come in at relatively close to what we're paying. The cyber should come close to relatively paying. The workers' comp is going to be less. The umbrella coverage, right now we have a $50 million umbrella. We're probably going to transition to a $25 million umbrella this year due to cost. But if we do that, we're going to be relatively the same as last year. The only one policy that we're going to have to move carriers, and it's due to losses. So it's nothing that I can control or I anticipated, but it's the directors and officers policy. We have one policy for the 114, the Federation and all 113 associations. That is with Travelers right now. We're paying roughly $31,000 for that policy. Last year we had the insured versus insured exclusion removed. They were the only carrier that was willing to write it on a bulk policy without insured versus insured exclusion. One of the things when we were hired as your insurance professional, I talked about how this probably is not going to last, and eventually we're going to have to separate into individual policies. Travelers has issued non-renewal on our account. They are not going to renew our account, and the reason they're not renewing our account is due to frequency. There is litigation going on between the Master Association and the Federation and First Service. Our D&O policy has to defend the Federation and First Service. Those expenses anticipated by Travelers are over $100,000 for just part of the claim. So they non-renewed us due to that activity. So what we're going to have to do is, I think the best process for us to do is going to be writing individual policies for all 113 associations, which we already have quotes for, which is going to be better coverage. So the way we're going to do this, every association is going to have their own individual policy, and we've actually leveraged our relationship with Aspen to quote the D&O for everybody. They provide a 25% credit on the account, which they normally don't do, but because of our size, they have. So every association is going to have their own D&O policy, and defense costs are going to be outside the limit. So right now, we have a $2 million limit through Travelers for all 114 entities, and defense cost is inside the limit, which means all the attorney's fees erode that limit, and we only have $2 million, and the umbrella sits on top of this. The way we're doing it, going to probably do it now, is every association is going to have their own policy. It's a $1 million policy, defense costs outside the limit, so technically you have $113 million of coverage, or 114 versus the $3 million with the umbrella. And then we're going to write, Aspen also has agreed to write the Federation's policy with a $1 million limit, defense costs outside this limit. So they're all going to, we're going to have 114 separate association, separate policies plus the Federation. The deductible is still going to be $20,000. That's what we have now. We do have a $50,000 deductible for insured versus insured. We won't have that deductible anymore, so it's $20,000. The deductible is actually be lower, but that premium is going to be $125,000 a premium versus the $34,000 we had budgeted for. That's the best we have right now. I don't anticipate us getting anything better with that level of a deductible, unless we want to go to a much higher deductible. So the only reason we're going to be over budget, we're going to be about, I would say, $80,000 over budget is due to the D&O being non-renewed by Travelers, or roughly 2%. Again, we're still waiting to hear back from some carriers, some bids, and we'll follow back up with those carriers. If we get something better and we approve on that, we will let you know. But that's where we are right now, and based on the marketplace, in my opinion, it's an outstanding renewal. Again, all under budget except for the D&O situation, which is something that we cannot control. At this point, I'd just like to open up for any questions.
Yeah, so what you're saying then that the primary purpose of them dropping us on the D&O was because of the master lawsuit?
Correct.
I can tell you, Rick, in that regard, they have given the Federation a high and low, which they sent to Adam. The high is $70,000 for the defense of the one claim the master has against us. And you could assume if they are defending First Service, who has 6 or 7 claims in that lawsuit, that theirs are going to be at least equal or much higher than ours. When you have a $20,000 deductible, which First Service has willingly offered to pay and reimburse us for that $20,000 deductible, that basically they're looking at somewhere around $100,000 to $150,000 loss. I can tell you that Janice and I have talked to Adam. Adam wrote an appeal letter to Travelers, showing them what claims have been handled, and I believe they went back to 2008,
2015.
2015. The majority of the claims were association claims. They were not Federation claims.
None of them were Federation claims, 0.
Yeah, but the thing is, what I'm saying is that they've been carrying those claims over.
They've been carrying
It's
them
never
every year.
been a consideration.
Until this one.
Until this one. Because of the
Straw that
loss
broke
of
the camel's back.
approximately $100,000 and some odd $1,000 they will incur due to that
And it
loss.
wouldn't make any difference at this point if they dropped us from the suit?
No,
No.
Damage has been done.
And also, one other thing you have to keep in mind also is, even if Travelers did offer a renewal to us, their renewal premium probably would have been close to $100,000, and they wouldn't increase our deductibles. So, and I did, in that, we paid about $135,000 in premium to Travelers since 2015, and they paid out $28,000 in losses. Up until this year, the account has been profitable, but with the claims, just defense costs alone for First Service and the Federation, it's going to be over $100,000. They're going to lose all that money. Unfortunately, due to the claims activity, they're non-renewing it. but we found a great solution. And probably somewhere, we were gonna have to do this eventually anyways. All master associations don't have, most associations all have individual policies. I don't have any accounts that have multiple associations on one policy, because none of the carriers wanna do it anymore. So,
Well, and just to make a point, and I understand what you're saying, you found a good product, but you're reducing your umbrella by $25 million coverage, so you were able to get within a budget, but you had to reduce your coverage at that point, is what I just understood.
so the reason why I feel comfortable going from a $50 to $25 million umbrella is because now the defense costs of the D&O is outside the limit.
Okay.
So the defense costs are typically the majority of claims. So if you have, you can have $100 million defense costs, that's not gonna erode the D&O limit. So, and that's what, but if we do have an option to stay at a $50 million umbrella, if we wanna pay another $30,000 for that, and that's something we'll discuss with the committee. We could still do that, but if we want to stay within a reasonable, it wouldn't be that much. I mean, when a $4 million budget for another $30,000 is not significant, but it's still a lot of money. We'll discuss that during the insurance committee.
But essentially, folly and fantasy put us into a situation where we had to make a choice.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The only thing, Adam, is I would like to thank you. I'm glad you're healed from the beatings that Janice and I have given you, telling you what we will accept and what we would not accept.
Okay.
Folks don't understand some of the negotiations that you have done. I know you have worked tirelessly with many carriers, specifically the carriers who said we won't even bid you, which is AMCAP.
Correct.
Which was the carrier we had before. And you have to work with a number of carriers in this very difficult market. And as I had said to you many times, one of the worst things that could have happened is the snowstorm and ice storm in Texas, and them incurring a $20 billion liability. And the hurricanes that basically ravaged the coast, even though they may not have hit Florida directly.
Yeah.
Those are losses that carriers have to insure for and make sure they have it, and allowing us to stay where Florida, they are part of the Florida insurance.
Correct.
fund.
It's an admitted carrier. The one thing I did mention, and Jack had a good point, is the storms in Texas is also, I don't see the marketplace getting any better for the next 12 to 24 months unless these carriers can start recapitalizing and get some lower reinsurance costs. If you look at 2021, we've already started out with a $50 to $20 billion insurable loss in Texas. We haven't even started hurricane season yet. So I know I have been in conversations with Janet and Jack and back and forth with Heritage multiple times. I drove over to their office, met with the president, Randy Jones. They do like our account. They did make a commitment to us last year, and they did save us over $1 million last year. I'm happy. It looks like we're going to be able to stay with them. They're a good company. But so that worked out well. But I did get the quotes in writing today too. So I did have a gentleman's agreement earlier in the week after going back and forth, but I do have the bids in writing now. So that makes me feel a lot better because, again, the property insurance is the larger part of it. I understand nobody wants to pay for more insurance. I get that. But based on what we're seeing in the marketplace, looking to place $811 million of property insurance in Hillsborough County, and to have something come in under 20% without any major changes is a really good result. And just to look at our GL, our general liability costs are $41 a door, okay? If you look at Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, they're paying $150 to $200 a door on good accounts. And other communities in the area are paying a lot more than $41 a door. But based on our bulk purchasing process, with Aspen, we're able to get that down to $41 a door. So with good coverage, no weird exclusions, A-rated paper. So.
Janice, anything? Nope. Thank you very much.
I have one
Thank you.
question.
Yes.
Getting away from the group, from the large insurance policy, is there one of those companies that the individual resident can go to if they want condominium insurance?
So Heritage does write homeowners insurance or HO6 policies. You can contact your local professional that you deal with, your broker, and ask if Heritage can offer you a
The
quote.
majority of us don't have homeowners policies.
Oh, they don't? Okay,
They're COA policies.
right.
One's a 6 and one's a 3.
That's what I was talking about.
Everybody
That's
should,
what he's talking
Everybody
about.
should have more.
everybody, nobody should have a 3 unless they're an HOA
That's
or,
what I'm saying, but.
everybody should have an HO6 policy.
Okay, that's for condos.
That's a condo
But
policy.
you had mentioned in association with HOAs. You said HOAs, that's why
No,
just a minute ago.
okay. So HO6 policies, Heritage does offer them, but I think they're limited in Hillsborough County due to sinkhole exposure. So they may quote it, but it's probably gonna have ground collapse coverage, which is no sinkhole coverage. So you gotta make sure, again, I don't wanna get into, we just did a whole seminar
That answers-
on personal lines.
That answers the question.
Okay.
Okay, good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, Jack. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
And if you used a handout, an 8 or 9 page pamphlet about the insurance,
Yes.
can I get about 10 or 12 copies of that?
Yes, if you give me your email address, I can email it to you, and then I can FedEx or bring out some hard copies and drop it off at Keith's office as well. What would you prefer?
Well, I've got the copy, but I'll talk to you when we're finished.
Okay,
Okay.
well, I'm gonna leave, but call me on my cell phone.
Okay, all I established my committee established a real estate commission, a real
Okay.
estate committee. And we're meeting with them, and they've had questions on the different insurance.
Okay,
So I was gonna give them a copy of that handout, and then ask you if they want, would you be able to come by and give us 10 or 15
Absolutely.
minutes? Okay.
matter of fact, I did go to, Brian and I did attend a condo meeting a couple weeks ago for an individual condo. If anybody has any committees or any other individual board meetings with their individual association, I'd be more than happy to attend and talk about insurance, HO6s, whatever you guys want to talk about insurance, I'll be more than happy to do that.
This committee, it's got all 8 brokers in Sun City
Okay,
are on this committee.
Okay, great.
With the residents.
okay, absolutely.
I would just like to add that you came out to our association and gave a presentation a few weeks ago, and it was absolutely excellent. And I encourage, it's gonna put more work on you, but I think it's very good information for the association to understand, so I did appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do it. Just give me till after 4:15 to do it.
We'll give you another word.
Yeah, give me some time. Thank you all.
And I think Adam will agree that he has been beat up by the Federation numerous times, especially when we said, no, we're not accepting that policy, go back.
Yeah,
So thank you very much for taking the time to come out.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.
With that, we will move
See you on
into
16.
new business. Peggy is here. She has a proposal from the RFEC. At our last board meeting, we approved, without actual dollar amounts and contracts, we approved the moving forward prior to April 1st, if necessary, the expenses that will be incurred on painting the South Club and the roof. And I think Peggy wants to make a motion now with costs incurred after the review by the see where we want to go.
That's exactly what I'd like to do. Good morning, my name's Peggy Hamrick. I'm here representing the Recreational Facilities Executive Committee. As a side note, great committee to serve on, and you, as a resident, learn so much about this organization. So anybody listening that's ever thought about it, submit, if not this time, next time. Anyway, I'm here because Vesta presented to the RFEC a proposed strategy to initiate 2 capital projects prior to the year in which they were budgeted. The projects are the implementation of the South Club roof replacement prior to the end of the current fiscal year, and the initiation of the South Club exterior painting project, so it can be completed at the same, ahead of the roof replacement project. Justifications for advancing these 2 projects include the possibility of weather limitations and project delays in the spring and summer seasons, ongoing challenges with roof leaks throughout the building due to the roof reaching the end of its useful life, the ever-present concern of Florida rains further causing more water damage to the building, and particularly the newly renovated locker rooms. And of course, it'd be best to have the building painted prior to replacing the roof, so you don't have concern with overspray or paint onto your new roof. This proactive planning allows for completion of both projects before the rainy season begins, so that Vesta can then focus its efforts on the interior projects during the spring and summer seasons that will not be affected by our unpredictable Florida weather. The approved budget amounts for these projects is $485,000 for the roof replacement and $60,000 for the exterior painting. Those funds are currently available in your replacement reserve account, and if you approve Vesta expediting these projects, the schedule for these projects, to the year ahead of the year they were budgeted in, it will not change the trajectory of the projected balance of your replacement reserves. There were 4 bids for the roof replacement. Springer Peterson, which is the preferred vendor, $401,469. Trusted Roof Solutions, $426,000, $457,12. Cardinal Roofing, $437,670, and Suncoast Roofing, $419,622. There were 3 bids for the exterior painting project. Finish Touch Commercial Painting, which is our preferred vendor, at $25,000, well under budget. RSI Contracting at $64,531, and Brown's Color Wheel at $38,435. So Vesta Property Services offers, and your RFEC supports, this proposed plan of action. So it's recommended that the Federation Board of Directors accept and approve the commencement of both the exterior painting by Finish Touch Commercial, as well as the tile replacement by Springer Peterson, together with a contingency amount of $26,000 for possible damaged wood replacement for the South Club prior to the end of the current fiscal year, so these projects can be completed prior to the rainy season and to prevent further water damage from occurring in the building. And of course, this action would be subject to your approval of the contracts with the selected companies. And that is our recommendation.
Could I ask you a question?
You may.
We budgeted $485,000 for the roof replacement, and the bid came in at $401,000. We also budgeted $60,000, and the bid came in at $25,000. We are only looking for a contingency of $26,000. It's not whether we spend the money or not, but I would ask that we do a contingency of 10% of the quoted rate, which would take that contingency real quickly to about $42,000, just in case they run into other things, instead of assuming the proposal or the estimate cost of $26,000 for wood, that we increase it to a 10% contingency of the project.
I think that's a good idea, Jack. I'd be happy to kind of amend that recommendation.
And I know
And you'll
that,
still be well under the budget.
you're still well under the budget, and I'm looking at Victoria if she thinks it's a good idea, because I know she has been working on these bids, and I'm also looking at Ginger, because she has been a part of working with Victoria on these bids. Do you think it would be wiser to use a 10% instead of a $26,000 flat fee?
Yes, yes, sir. Yes. Agreed and
I would ask you
appreciated.
to
Yes.
Amend your recommendation for the 10%.
So the amount, if we add 401, 469, and 25, the total would be 426, 469. 10% would be a contingency then of 42,647.
Yes.
So I would amend our recommendation to include a contingency of 42,
No,
Si-
I would say 10%.
10%.
10%.
Yes, thank you.
10% of the project.
10% of the project.
10% of both projects. Can I have a motion to accept the RFEC's recommendation?
I move that we accept it.
Second?
I have a couple questions.
Let's second it first. I'll second it. That way you
Okay.
can open up the questions.
Now we can open it for discussion.
You stated the companies that are the preferred. How did you come up with them being the preferred, as far as, did you check out the
I will,
backgrounds and all that?
I will allow Victoria to comment on that. She and Vesta are the ones who solicit the bids.
Okay.
They presented the information to the RBC. We rely on them, they're the experts. Obviously, we're looking at the dollars.
Right.
So, assuming they were qualified vendors, which obviously they would be, otherwise I'm confident they wouldn't bring those forward.
Oh, absolutely.
To save money seems like a good thing for all of us.
Yes, and sorry, I just want to move a little bit closer. So the vendors have been vetted. We've scrubbed the bids, spoken with the project managers for all the companies, and we do feel that these are the most qualified, best contractors to use for both projects.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And
I have a
Victoria,
question.
before you leave, and Rick, go ahead.
I have a question. I look at your vendor bids up here at the top. You know, they're pretty reasonable from the low to the high.
Mhm.
You go down to the vendor bids for the
Painting.
that's a terrible spread there.
Okay.
You know, over here, there's only about a 7 or 8% spread between prices. You get down here, and there's a 300% spread between prices. And how one company can come in, even the next lowest is 50% higher than the lowest.
How do you attribute that spread among your vendors?
We had Sherwin-Williams, who is the product materials person that we're going to use in the contract, create a spec analysis saying what materials we're going to be using, so everyone bid off of those materials. But those are the bids that were received by each vendor. The gentleman, RSI, he specializes in car dealerships. And so his profit margin and his personal setup for his company is different from a company such as Finest Touch or Brown's Collar Wheel, which specializes in commercial building painting. So there's different setups for the company.
Well, I understand that with that one, but even if the other one, that's a 50% difference between the two lows.
Between Browns and.
Between Browns and
I think Rick tried to clarify was there, you had an RFP, obviously, and everybody bid on the same specs.
And
It's just interesting
materials.
how one came off so dramatically different than the others. Was there any change in scope of work or focus on the project or anything like that?
No, sir. Everyone bid off the same information provided by Sherwin-Williams, the spec sheet.
I think the bottom line is, by this is just, looking at the difference, just raises a red flag, and you wonder if this company got it right, and if they can fulfill and do the job correct. So, but you vetted Finest Touch, you researched them, they do quality work,
I've
they
used
do
them in
good
the
work,
past.
and we're comfortable that they will be able to do the job for this price. That's the
Yes, sir.
bottom line.
And they actually have worked for me before, and they have painted apartment communities for me, which is their specialty. But commercial buildings, so I have used them personally in the past.
I just want to stay out of putting my foot in the bucket, which has happened to me over the years by looking at low bid, even vetting them and taking them, and then one out halfway through the contract, they can't perform anymore, and most of the money's been spent, and we had to go back and do more work to correct what they did.
It happened with landscape contracts.
I can tell you that, and I don't remember who it was, to be honest with you, what project they were working on. I think it was the men's and ladies locker room contract. That we reviewed the contract, and it had penalties in there for failure to complete on time if it was their problem.
Yes, sir.
It had penalties on how they were going to be paid and stuff as that. And I assume, and maybe I shouldn't, but as required by the board, that you will send to the board the contracts before they are finally signed, so we can make sure that we aren't gonna run into the problem that Rick gave us, and we should be able to turn it around, as I did with the one for the men's and ladies locker room, within a couple of days.
Are you referring to the change order?
No.
Or do
the
you need a
actual-
contract that you
the
were
actual
reviewed
contract.
prior to?
Yes, the actual
Um,
contract.
If you would like me to share it, I'm more than happy to. It's a 16-plus page contract that was drafted, which holds any vendor that works for us in a legal obligation to fulfill the duties that we're hiring them to do.
I know, but, I mean, that's always the case. We want that in a contract, but I mean, that's just a red light. And it's, we're not only here to protect the Federation, we're here to protect the well-being of the people that are vetting the contract, you all as well.
Oh,
We
yeah, I
don't
don't
want,
wanna make
we don't
more
want
work.
stones thrown at you, but, you know, I'm very happy up at the top with that spread, but I'm down on the bottom, I was a little concerned.
Well, in preparation, I did contact references for the vendor, Finest Touch. And so I do have references of commercial buildings they've painted in the past couple months that you're more than welcome to look at.
No, I'm not questioning what you've done. I'm just questioning the difference in the prices there.
Okay. They did bid off the same
It's nothing on
specs.
the work that
They
you've
could
done.
increase their price.
I'm just saying that somebody's back there with a little flag when I see those kind of things, and if we don't address it, we're not doing our fiduciary
History indicates
responsibility.
things could go wrong or something, you know, if we don't vet these things.
Correct,
We're
which-
dealing against a history of not working out so well for certain choices. So we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing with the right group, and we know why that recommendation was made clearly and succinctly.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I have personally used them in the past. I do care for their quality of work. I have vetted them. I have them specking and bidding off the same information. I understand your concerns, but that's their bid. I said, are you covered? Are you following the specs? And they confirmed with me twice that they are able to do the job for the price they quoted.
How long have they been in business?
They have been in business for several years. I would have to ask them the exact number of years they're in business.
That wasn't part of the request for the background?
It is part of my discussion on references on what they've done recently and what they have done in the past 12 months. But I'm,
That's right here, everything they're gonna do.
I have nothing else, Jeff.
Any other discussion? Then I will call the question.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed, and
Thank you.
the RPC can advise Ginger to proceed ahead. The only thing we will look for is the contracts for the painting company and the roofing company. One question, Ginger? And Victoria, one question came up on the use of foam and the use of screws at the end. How was that issue resolved? I know Roger.
An RFEC member has experience with roofing, and I'm not going to be able to talk to the details. I was just going to mention that you can speak to the details if you want. One of our RFEC members has construction contractor experience and requested to see all the bids and review the usage of foam and screws. And he went through those in depth with Victoria, and he was satisfied, but as to How they're gonna do it, I'll let her speak to that.
It is not 100% foam installation, so I wanted to kind of advise people, it is foam with metal or mechanical fasteners. It is not 100% foam. It is in addition to the mechanical fasteners, which is the recommended setup. It is following Florida building code requirements, and the way that we will be doing it is that every third row will be mechanically fastened, foam intermittently, and along the edges, which is the setup in the building codes for a home that is actually on the coast.
Which is what Roger recommended be done, am I correct?
Yes,
According to best practice, that is the best practice.
it is the
way.
best practices.
Where others just were going to use foam without metal fasteners.
Or with a less quantity than every
Metal
third
fasteners.
row.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Dave, you're up. We have two items. One is the additional palm fertilization, which we added at the beginning of the meeting. You want to take that one first, and then we can go into down to earth, section 2 and 4.
Before I read the motion, I'd just like to explain the situation. Roughly a year and a half ago, we realized that our contracts had 2 palm fertilizations. And looking at the industry standards, they suggest and highly recommend that we have 4 applications of fertilizers for our palm trees. Last year, we put out for bid through First Services for a contractor to come in and do 2 additional fertilizations for all the association's palm trees. Russell came in with the low bid at that time, and they were successful last year in doing the 2 additional applications. They came back to us just recently and said they needed to purchase product if we were to have them do this project again this year. So I'm bringing it to the board now for review and approval, but they would like to order the product, and they are offering us the product at the same price as last year. There's no increase, and the pricing is roughly $14,250 per application. There'll be 1 application in April and 1 application in September, thereabouts. The timing is also important because they have to coordinate with the other landscape contractors to make sure they aren't doing it at the same time. But with that, that's the understanding that we want to have healthy palm trees, and they do need 4 fertilizations. In years to come, we will be looking at next year at including the 4 fertilizations in the landscape contract, or another option is we may treat it like the palm tree and go out for bids for it on its own. That'll be determined over the next year, but right now I would like to just put the motion on the floor to approve a total of $28,500.05 for 2 applications for this year. I make the motion to approve 2 spring, to approve a fall and spring palm tree fertilization application by Russell in the total amount of $28,500 or $14,250 per application. This will cover all palm trees and all associations. This proposal is at the same price as the 2 additional applications in 2020.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd just like to thank Dave for this, for doing this. I think it's so important. We worked a long time and wanted to have all of our palm trees healthy. And we've seen them over the years have problems. I think you said that Paul Woods or people are saying that because of these 4 treatments last year, we have seen improvements in these palms. They're healthier, they're greener and healthier. So we know this is important.
And you don't see a lot of the yellowing on the palms now that we saw prior to that, and it is fertilizations.
Yeah.
And
Ryan?
I'm going to dovetail right on the back of Alan's comment as well. It's not only fertilization being something we've chatted about and talked about for a while now. It's also the education we got a couple of, I guess, almost 2 years ago now, that over trimming the palms is detrimental to their health as well. And I see fuller and healthier looking palms in the neighborhoods and the properties. I think we've gotten that message out there and that works. So I think this is just the culmination of that program we've learned about, and it should have some good positive results moving forward. So I think we're looking better and treating our palms better at that point.
Rick?
I'm not a landscape guy, but I think we ought to recognize what both you gentlemen just said, but go one step further, what he's done for landscaping, period. I would like to see his hours, your work card, put in, and if you had a punch card, how much time you put in it. But we all know that it's been a very time-consuming item, and David's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Very
My question is, Alan, I know we have money that was set aside within our budget that was from penalties that we had. We have sufficient money within our budget to pay the $20-some thousand that Dave recommended we pay, am I correct?
Correct, that's correct. And we do have a contract account, and mainly it has, the money's accumulated there from the penalties over the years that landscapers have had. And we currently have over 50,000 in that account, so that'll easily cover the cost of these two fertilizations.
Any other discussion? And I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Then you can go ahead and work with Keith to get that contract signed for the two additional.
We're there, right, Keith?
Second item is the approval of the down-to-earth landscaping, section 2 and 4.
I'm going to do a little introduction as to why we have these contracts a year apart before I give the motion. Back in 2018, when Mainscape left, the Federation Board at that time, in early 2018, determined that we should break down our community into 4 sections and have 4 separate companies come in and do the landscaping. It was just we felt it was just too much for one company to do. So beginning in April of 2018, we had selected Yellowstone to do section 1 and 4, Down to Earth do section 2, and Juniper did section 3. Within 6 months of those contracts being signed, and the landscapers actually on the contract pricing here, 2 of the contractors came back and said we underbid the project, which probably relates back to Rick's questions on the contract we just talked about. And in most cases, they wanted $500,000 more than they had actually bid. And I know everybody that's on the board here, we went through that crisis with them. But we determined that we were not going to let them low bid us and then come back after the fact and try to up the ante on the contracts. So what we did is we took Yellowstone, and I had to go back in history because it gets a little bit gray after 3 or 4 years, but we asked Down to Earth if they would do section 4 in addition to section 2. And so they had put a bid in for both of those projects at the beginning of the bid process, and they accepted it. So we let them have section 4 based on their prior bid. We had to go up in section 1 and section 3, which was Juniper and the other Yellowstone. We brought Brightview into section 1, and we brought down to, and Russell into section 3. Okay, but what happened during that is when you have a new contractor come in, we felt that you have to offer them a 3-year contract because they've got startup costs to come into the community and a lot of logistics to get going. So we put in 3-year contracts. So that's why we have a difference of a year on our contracts. Now we want to bring those contracts all together and have them all be defined as a year end so we can work all the contracts and revise them. And that's what we're presenting here. We want to get Down to Earth for their 2 contracts an additional year so that they'll be in sync with the other 2 contracts. That'll allow us this next year to fully go over all of the contracts and make major revisions in them and do it for all the contractors at the same time. So that's why this contract extension is being offered. And if you have any questions on what I just asked, I'd be happy to explain it to you later or by email. But with that, I would like to make a motion. I make the motion to approve the one-year landscape contract with Down to Earth for sections 1 and 4. The term of the contract?
2 and 4.
2 and 4, excuse me. That's right. The contract will begin on April 1st, 2021 and end 3/31/22. Both contracts call for an increase of 2% over the next year, and that increase is in line with their prior increases. The Landscape Oversight Committee has reviewed and approved the new contracts based on the guidelines submitted by the Federation Board.
Do I have a second? Okay, discussion?
I would like, let me start with, let me start. What's different in this contract that the two contracts? We've made some modifications on the Russell contract that we included in here. The big difference in the contracts when you read them, or when the membership reads them, is section 3.9, which is the term and termination part of the contract. The first section gave them the ability to cancel the contract with or without cause. We, as a Federation Board, realized that that wasn't in our best interest. So with the Russell contract, we specifically clarified that language and basically eliminated it. You will see when you go through the red line or the blue line in the contracts, that has been completely revised, and we've put in the Russell definition of what their responsibility is. The second part of section 3.9 is what I'll call the pro rata section. If they were to leave early, they were eligible to get back a certain portion of their expenses based on seasonality. When the Landscape Committee looked at this, we realized that we don't have a lot of seasonality in Florida. Why is this even in there? And then in the discussions with First Service, Keith in particular, we realized that we didn't even need that clause in there. So we eliminated that clause completely. So we've basically taken section 3.9 and revised it completely. That's a big change in this contract, and it'll roll forward when we review all the contracts next year. The second part, this next significant thing is we had in contract language too wet or too dry. And any of the contractors could go out, grab a hand of dirt and tell you whether it's wet or dry. They know that because it's in the industry. But what we really felt as a committee is we wanted tangible, documented data to tell us whether it's too wet or too dry. So we've asked, and we've included in this contract, that they actually use meter readings to determine too wet or too dry. The language says if it's on a scale of 10, if it's under 3, it's too dry. If it's over 6, it's too wet. And each of the contractors will be required to report that information to us, the Federation Board, to First Services, the master, and the associations involved when they do these reviews. This helps give responsibility and document, which I've always said is, we need statistics, we want data. And this, again, gives us more information, tangible information. I kind of relate it back to, you had a sea captain, and when they're out on the ocean, they certainly know the weather because they've been accustomed to figuring out, but they don't know if there's a Cat 5 hurricane coming tomorrow. The technologies have changed for the boating industry, so they know that Cat 5 hurricane's coming. The technologies have changed for landscapers too, and we're putting some of that in the contract. So we've made it a lot stronger, a lot more defined.
Section 3.9 is consistent with section 3.9 of the contract is now consistent with the Russell contract, section 3.9, correct?
Correct.
So at least 3 of the contracts will be totally consistent. I think Brightviews also removed the without clause. But when we do all 4 contracts next year, it will be an extensive review, including members of the community with their input. Is that the plan that you're looking at?
Actually, we were discussing having open workshops, and we're going to, One of the suggestions, well, we could start in October. We're not going to do that. The landscape committee is going to start actually with our next meeting, and we're going to start talking about revisions, and we want it open to the community. We want their feedback. Part of the contract language is that it's got to be written so a layman like me understands what's in the contract. You get a lot of legalese in the contracts, and it gets confusing. We want to make it so that when I read it, I understand it. When the contractor reads it, he understands it. And when First Service reads it, we understand the same thing. And yes, it's going to be quite involved, but we want the community involved with it. One other significant change is when they mow the lawns, we gave them the latitude of cleaning up the properties the same day. We've changed the wording to say immediately after mowing. So when they come through, we don't want to have a whole afternoon where the driveways are all full of debris. We want it cleaned up immediately. So that's another significant change. And we've gotten a lot of feedback from the community that that's been a problem, and we're trying to rectify it with that change. And there's another little section that was inconsistent, but what we wanted in contracts. It was in one contract, but not the other, but it'll follow through for the rest of them. When a contractor leaves, such as, and I'll use the example, Mainscape, at the end of the contract, we had a lot of warning claims that we weren't able to go back on them. We put a clause, a sentence in this contract that at the end of the contract, if there's a warning claims or damage claims, we reserve the right to bill them back for it. And that language is pretty strong, and it helps us at the termination of the contract. Over and above that, there was a termination clause of 90 days. When a contractor leaves, if and when they leave, 90 days to do an RFP is really crunch. We've actually taken that to 120 days, which gives the future federation boards reasonable amount of time to do a good RFP. What I've just explained were the high points of the contract changes. There's a lot of nuanced changes, which you'll see in the red points, but are there any other questions?
If there's no other discussion, I will call the question. All in favor of approving the Section 2 and Section 4 down-to-earth contract for a one-year term, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Then we will present it to the board at the next membership meeting for their approval of the down-to-earth contract for Section 2 and Section 4.
You mean you presented to the membership?
Membership, what did I say?
Board.
No, to the membership.
Okay, and I might add at the end here, as the membership reads these new contracts with revisions, if you have any questions whatsoever, I would encourage you to email us, the landscape committee, through Ma Bell, and she will funnel the questions to us and we'll promptly answer them for you.
That ends our new business that we had on the agenda. I'm going to make one comment, and this is not a guarantee, and I wish Ginger hadn't left, but she did. We are working with the Land Trust and with Ginger of having the March 26th meeting in person in the Veterans Theater. We can't guarantee it at this moment. The Land Trust and Board have to discuss what ramifications would befall if we were to open it up for that many people. But Ginger said it can be done. We just have to make sure that we are consistent in the other ramifications for other people. And I'm not speaking of the master when I say other people. The other people may want to use it for larger than 50 people or some large group. So we are trying to get back to in-person meetings, and we will be working with that. And now I will open it up to good and welfare announcements. If you want to *6 your phone and unmute, if you have a good and welfare announcement.
We're planning on meeting in person, are we still gonna send out the
Point.
You will know before that. Janice asked is if people still would, if we had it in person and say people still didn't feel comfortable, would we still send out the proxies? Yes, we would. People could still fill out their proxy, send them in. If they attended the meeting, they could have their proxy removed. So we would make accommodations for those who would not be comfortable.
Okay.
But hearing no good and welfare announcements, I would ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Ryan, so moved, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then the meeting is adjourned, and folks, thanks for attending.